Mama Gyanati Brandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunanatam Vitamtam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakancha Nagaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutedevi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we will continue today with the reading of Bhagavad-gīta as it is from His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, founder-ācārya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We are continuing with chapter 2. The name is Contents of the Gita Summarized. The section Krishna's Instructions on the Immutable Spirit Soul. So what we heard last time is yes, last time we spoke about the difference between the body and the soul, how body can have some changes, but soul is unchangeable, and also that soul cannot be killed, but at the same time, violence should be used properly, shouldn't be used whimsically, despite this ability of the soul being not being able to be killed. So still violence must be ordered by scripture or by the law only. It cannot be misused. And also we spoke something that soul is in the heart and there is a Paramatma or super soul residing there also and observing what we are doing. So continue with Shloka 23. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantiapo, na shoshayati marutaha. Na never enam this soul chindanti can cut to pieces. Shastrani weapons. Na never enam this soul dahati burns. Pavakaha fire. Na never cha also enam this soul kledayanti moistens. Apaha water. Na never shoshayati dries. Marutaha wind. Sorry. Translation: the soul can never be cut to pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. Purport: all kinds of weapons, swords, flame weapons, rain weapons, tornado weapons, etc., are unable to kill the spirit soul. It appears that there were many kinds of weapons made of earth, water, air, ether, etc., in addition to the modern weapons of fire. Even the nuclear weapons of the modern age are classified as fire weapons. But formerly there were other weapons made of all different types of material elements. Fire weapons were counteracted by water weapons, which are now unknown to modern science. Nor do modern scientists have knowledge of tornado weapons. Nonetheless, the soul can never be cut into pieces, nor annihilated by any number of weapons, regardless of scientific devices. So here is again one of the qualities of the soul, that any material element cannot affect the soul. And here is particularly mentioned some weapons of different elements, not only fire weapons, which are common now, but also water weapons or air weapons. In fact, there are some theories that different agencies can use even tornado weapons, that they can somehow affect the weather. So this they are also trying. And regarding the nuclear weapons, in the during the time of Kurukshetra war, they also had nuclear weapons, but those were so specific because they were driven by mantras, and they did not just destroy everything, but very, very particularly they targeted, for example, one person or like that. So they were very much more precise than modern weapons at the present age. Okay. The Mayavadi cannot explain how the individual soul came into existence simply by ignorance and consequently became covered by the illusory energy. Nor was it ever possible to cut the individual souls from the original Supreme Soul. Rather, the individual souls are eternally separated parts of the Supreme Soul. Because they are atomic individual souls, eternally sanatana, they are prone to be covered by the illusory energy, and thus they become separated from the association of the Supreme Lord. Just as the sparks of a fire, although one in quality with a fire, are prone to be extinguished when out of the fire. In the Varaha Purana, the living entities are described as separated parts and parcels of the Supreme. They are eternally so, according to the Bhagavad-gīta also. So even after being liberated from illusion, the living entity remains a separate identity, as is evident from the teachings of the Lord to Arjuna. Arjuna became liberated by the knowledge received from Kṛṣṇa, but he never became one with Kṛṣṇa. So is Srila Prabhupada pointing out that we have separate existence from Kṛṣṇa, even when we are liberated, like what Mayavadi say that souls or these minute particles are merged back into this original Supreme Soul. So it's not like that. They can be merged, but still they remain individuals, and this is what is Brahma Jyoti. What is this effulgence? There are these small particles trying to think that they are one with God, but still they are individuals. They are just not much recognizing this position. So they will not become one with the Supreme Soul. (24) Acedoyam adahyoyam akledishoshya evacha nityaksavagatakstanur aceloyam sanatanaha. Acedyaha, unbreakable. I am this soul. Adahyaha, unable to be burned. I am this soul. Akledyaha, insoluble. Ashoshyaha, not able to be dried. Eva, certainly. Cha, and Nityaha, everlasting. Sarvagataha, all-pervading. Stanuhu, unchangeable. Achalaha, immovable. I am this soul. Sanatanaha, eternally the same. Translation: this individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. Purport: all these qualifications of the atomic soul definitely prove that the individual soul is eternally the atomic particle of the spirit whole. And he remains the same atom eternally without change. The theory of monism is very difficult to apply in this case because the individual soul is never expected to become one homogeneously. After liberation from material contamination, the atomic soul may prefer to remain as a spiritual spark in the effulgent rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the intelligent souls enter into the spiritual planets to associate with the Personality of Godhead. So here is basically a refusal of Mayavadi's proposal that soul can be merged back into the original supreme soul, because it is changed, mentioned that it's unchangeable, immovable, so eternally the same, so it is not changing in this way that it would be merged or whatever transformation would be there, and it's everlasting also. But as I mentioned, these spiritual sparks may remain in the effulgent rays in the Brahma Jyoti of the Lord. So for some time they can be there and prefer this this position, but in general is not very much a high position. It's spiritual already, but it's not the highest one, because intelligent souls go into spiritual planets and have very personal exchanges with their Supreme Personality of Godhead there. So, continue. The word sarvagata, all pervading, is significant because there is no doubt that living entities are all over God's creation. They live on the land, in the water, in the air, within the earth, and even within fire. They believe that they are sterilized in fire is not acceptable, because it is clearly stated here that the soul cannot be burned by fire. Therefore, there is no doubt that there are living entities also in the sun planet with suitable bodies to live there. If the sun globe is uninhabited, then the word sarvagata, living everywhere, becomes meaningless. So this quality of all pervasiveness of living entity is mentioned here as the next one. And living entities, we can observe that they are basically everywhere, even in the small portion of the soil. There are, if the soil is properly fertile, there are so many organisms, millions and millions of organisms in just 1 square inch or maybe 1 cubic inch. So living entities are everywhere, and now the scientists say that all these planets which we can see around, that they are just empty, there are no living entities, but because we cannot perceive these different elements, so we cannot see also these living entities, but definitely there is life there on these planets. Same thing on this planet, where there are volcanoes and there is this lava coming out of it. How is it called in English? I think it's lava. So it's very hot melted earth which is coming out of the volcano, and modern scientists even there in this very hot substance found some bacteria which is living there. So we don't have to go even to sun planet, we can see it also here that there are living entities who are basically living in fire. So this is another proof that life is basically everywhere. This universe is full of life. Yes. Archaeobacteria. Okay, so this is what lives in the volcano. Okay, so the name is Archaeobacteria. Okay, thank you. Ancient. 25. Avyaktoyam achintyoyam avikaryoyam uchyate tasmatevam viditvainam nanushochitum arhasi. Avyaktaha, invisible, I am the soul. Achintyaha, inconceivable, I am the soul. Avikaryaha, unchangeable, I am the soul. Uchyate is said, tasmat, therefore, evam, like this. Viditva, knowing it well. Enam, the soul, na, do not. Anushochitum, to lament, arhasi, you deserve. Translation. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. Purport. As described previously, the magnitude of the soul is so small for our material calculation that he cannot be seen even by the most powerful microscope. Therefore, he is invisible. As far as the soul's existence is concerned, no one can establish its existence experimentally beyond the proof of Shruti or Vedic wisdom. We have to accept this truth because there is no other source of understanding the existence of the soul, although it is a fact by perception. There are many things we have to accept solely on grounds of superior authority. No one can deny the existence of his father based upon the authority of his mother. There is no source of understanding the identity of the father except by the authority of the mother. Similarly, there is no source of understanding the soul except by studying the Vedas. In other words, the soul is inconceivable by human experimental knowledge. The soul is consciousness and conscious. That also is the statement of the Vedas, and we have to accept that. Unlike the bodily changes, there is no change in the soul. As eternally unchangeable, the soul remains atomic in comparison to the infinite Supreme Soul. The Supreme Soul is infinite, and the atomic soul is infinitesimal. Infinitesimal. Therefore, the infinitesimal soul, being unchangeable, can never become equal to the infinite soul or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This concept is repeated in the Vedas in different ways just to confirm the stability of the conception of the soul. Repetition of something is necessary in order that we understand the matter thoroughly without error. So again, we see some attributes are here also repeated, like it's immutable, like it's unchangeable. It is invisible, so because of the size of this 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair, it cannot be perceived by any device, any material device which scientists possess at the moment. And also is inconceivable because we have no means how to understand it, despite the or apart from the Shruti or Vedic wisdom. So we have to just accept the authority of the Vedas in this way. But we have many other things which can help us with even if it was something really like unimaginable for us, gradually we can get faith if we observe other things which are mentioned in the Vedas, and by this thing we can understand that okay, so if this is true, then also what is written about the soul has some substance. And then when we have more spiritual realization, we will understand it's also more directly. So is there more here? So the same thing with the consciousness of the soul, that it is conscious, is also mentioned in the Vedas, and we cannot directly understand it or measure it, but we have some perception of it, that we have consciousness, so that's fine. And here is Prabhupada is mentioning about repetition. It's very common, especially in Prabhupada's books, that he's constantly repeating things which are important, so we remember. Even in the 8th chapter, the Mahamantra is mentioned there so many times, just that we have this exposure to the holy name. So he basically filled the whole chapter of Bhagavad-gītā with Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Of course, I saw also critique on this, that some materialistic persons dare to criticize Prabhupada, that he is not scientific or is not proper literary style because he's always repeating the same thing. But this is the thing, because in Bhakti Yoga, this is also our practice, that we are repeating something. So it's very natural that Prabhupada make his books in this way that this repetition is there, and also if we repeat, then we can remember. We don't have to forget these things if we are always reminded of them. Okay, 26. Atachainam nityajatam nityam vamanyasemritam tatapitvam mahabaho nainam shochitum arhasi. Ata, if however, cha also enam, this soul, nitya jatam, always born, nityam, forever, va, either, manyase, you so think, mritam, that tatha api, still tvam, you, mahabaho, almighty Ram, one, na, never, enam, about the soul, shochitum, to lament, arhasi, deserve. So this is kind of a subsection in this bigger section of the symptoms of the soul, because now Krishna comes with the theory that even if the soul is, if it could die or be somehow killed, so then Krishna will go even through this theory and will prove to Arjuna, okay, if you believe this, then also you don't have to worry about it. So we will see how it will be explained. So translation: if however you think that the soul or the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, almighty armed. Whereupon there is always a class of philosophers, almost akin to the Buddhists, who do not believe in the separate existence of the soul beyond the body. When Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad-gītā, it appears that such philosophers existed, and they were known as the Lokayatikas and Vaibhashikas. Such philosophers maintain that life symptoms take place at a certain mature condition of material combination. The modern material scientists and materialist philosophers also think similarly. According to them, the body is a combination of physical elements, and at a certain stage, the life symptoms develop by interaction of the physical and chemical elements. The science of anthropology is based on this philosophy. Currently, many pseudo-religions now becoming fashionable in America are also adhering to this philosophy, as are the nihilistic, non-devotional Buddhist sects. So we see that what modern science is saying about the material nature of the soul, or the soul basically doesn't exist separately from the body. So the same thing was long before that in the case of Lokayatikas and Vaibhashikas. These are basically one of these 6 philosophies have different views on the Vedas, or basically, how is it called? Sat-darsanam, 6 philosophical schools. Then Vedanta is the 7th one and is the highest one. So Lokayatikas and Vaibhashikas are one of these categories. There are more categories, but these are 6 are the basic ones. Okay. Even if Arjuna did not believe in the existence of the soul, as in the Vaibhashika philosophy, there would still have been no cause for lamentation. No one laments the loss of a certain bulk of chemicals and stops discharging his prescribed duty. On the other hand, in modern science and scientific warfare, so many tons of chemicals are wasted for achieving victory over the enemy. According to the Vaibhashika philosophy, the so-called soul or Atma vanishes along with the deterioration of the body. So in any case, whether Arjuna accepted the Vedic conclusion that there is an atomic soul or he did not believe in the existence of the soul, he had no reason to lament. According to this theory, since there are so many living entities generating out of matter every moment, and so many of them are being vanquished every moment, there is no need to grieve for such incidents. If there were no rebirth for the soul, Arjuna had no reason to be afraid of being affected by sinful reactions due to his killing his grandfather and teacher. while at the same time Krishna sarcastically addressed Arjuna as Mahabahu, mighty armed, because he at least did not accept the theory of the Vaibhashikas, which leaves aside the Vedic wisdom. As a Kshatriya, Arjuna belonged to the Vedic culture, and it behoved him to continue to follow its principles. So this, so they say that basically because of some chemical reactions, the soul is coming to be, and then after some time also it vanishes in the same way. So Krishna is saying, okay, if this is happening with just some chemicals, so then you don't have to worry about it, because chemicals are used in so many other cases. And also if there would be some reactions if the soul is disappearing, so then it will not get any reaction anyway. What is Vaibhashika theory? Who gave this theory? I'm not sure about the origin, but basically these are parts of the 6 darshanas or 6 philosophies, and they are basically from time immemorial, along with the Vedanta-sutra and all these theories. They are there, like what's there, Mimamsa, or cannot remember at the moment, but there are 6 main categories, and basically Krishna is giving the kind of opportunity to various philosophers, even many modern religions, as Prabhupada is mentioning here, who are becoming fashionable in America. So these religions just take some elements of, or not religions, also some philosophies, just take basically some elements from these 6 schools of philosophy, original schools, and they take kind of mix of it, and that's how they create a new philosophy. But basically everything is given by Krishna, even in this form of 6 philosophies. So we don't invent anything new. And I suppose that by the names Lokayatikas and Vaibhashikas, this is maybe there are some persons who are producing it. Yeah, it is a dangerous trap, but somehow that's why we are in the material world, because we want to try something else which is not safe for us as a spirit soul. This is a very dangerous trap, those who come across to such a philosophy. Yeah, that's why we have to study all these philosophies, because then we can recognize what is proper, what is not proper. Ultimately, basically these 6 philosophies are developing one from other, and by the higher one, there is kind of hierarchy there. So by the higher one, we can defeat the lower one. Let's say Mimamsa, I think, is one of the highest of them. And by this, just by this, we can defeat all the lower philosophies. We don't have to even touch the Vedanta-sutra, or they can be defeated by each other, basically. And ultimately, all of them can be defeated by Vedanta-sutra. But this is basically study of on the level of Bhaktivedanta of Srimad Bhagavatam, means 7th canto to 12th canto. And this, on this level, there is also Vedanta Sutra is supposed to be studied. And then we can very clearly recognize all these philosophies and very easily defeat all of them. And if not by this, then Jiva Goswami gave 6 sandarbhas, and then again there are many ways how to defeat these lower philosophies. And basically Jiva Goswami's 6 sandarbhas are kind of ultimate way what he wrote, what he composed, the level how he did it, even modern scholars cannot, or are appreciating so much that it cannot be defeated from any angle what Jiva Goswami came with. So he wrote his works in such a way that no one can twist it or interpret it in different way, especially these 6 sandarbhas and other works. So Jiva Goswami is the topmost scholar. He's a Vaishnava, and we cannot find anyone who is on a higher level than himself. So he brought us this this perfect understanding, and if we learn these things, then we don't have to worry about all these lower philosophies. It's very logical. It's very nice how he's both of them, vedanta-sutra and also Jiva Goswami's works, how they work if we go to it. Okay, I'm just there. Yeah, so that's it basically for today. Next time we'll continue and we'll finish this section. Any other questions, comments? Next time I can find who is the origin of these philosophies. I have some notes. I hope I will find it. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad-gītā ki jai. Samaveta Bhaktivedanta ki jai.